I bought a couple more of these to see how many months it take for the water to eat through this plastic jug. It's distilled water. Yeah? Remember when I made a video about a year ago? I was talking about, this has happened to me twice. Normally we don't think of water as a solvent. We think of a lot of things as a solvent, kind of like, the acid that's inside a plastic soda bottle, inside of a aluminum can, or acid, or countless other things like that. We don't actually think of water as a solvent. However, water is the ultimate solvent, actually. I made a video about a year or so ago, and I had a lot of people respond like, yeah, it's really mysterious. Happened to me too. Water dug a hole out through the plastic jug, kept it 72 ambient room temperature, not out in the heat or anything like that. And I had these puddles in my kitchen. It's like, where the hell is this water coming from? And it was always from a unopened jug of distilled water. Yeah. Also, too, we'll eat the inside, even distilled water. I'm not talking about carbonic acid water, as in the case of soda, or like seltzer water, which of course is acidic. I'm talking about distilled water. Interestingly enough, there's an Army surplus place, and they have these aluminum cans that are full of pure distilled water for emergency use. And some of them are, well, they got some time on them. Some of these have been completely eaten through the aluminum can, just regular distilled water. I have a a lot of petrified wood over here. I'm kind of a bit of a person on rocks and minerals, at least I used to be. You can't see it from this video, but you can actually see the tree rings on this mega million-year-old piece of petrified wood. It's quite beautiful. There's a serious issue, actually, and I'm a big person on water filters. My buddy decades ago got me into water filtration, and I have been known to actually drink. I never drink from plastic bottles. Never. Just barely no water. Never do that. I have been known, unfortunately, to drink some seltzer water out of an aluminum can, which I know is bad because it'll actually dissolve the aluminum, and the aluminum gets in the brain, and it could cause future mental issues. I try to avoid that, but I have been seen in live stream doing that. Anyway, my buddy got me into water filtration decades ago. But water is the ultimate solvent. I actually have the water molecule tattooed here on the back of my hand, which is also to the perfect Pythagorean incommensurable geometry, the 108, 36 degree triangle. People make a huge mistake too. A lot of the water that's actually sold, just for the United States, for example, like Nestle Pure, it's just highly filtered tap water. Yeah. Highbridge water, which is from here. In this area, I don't know how far it extends, it's just triple or actually maybe 6 times distilled tap water, straight out of the tap. So there's actually qualitatively pure and there's quantitatively pure. And I've talked about things that are quantitatively pure versus quantitatively impure. One of the serious issues is that microplastics come in a range of various different micron sizes. And all you have to do is just type in microplastic birth defect. I've actually done a lot of looking into this over the past few years, and the research actually on this topic, and I'm not a doom and gloomer, it's like, oh no, there's something new to worry about, oh no. There's people out there that actually do that. But the research that's actually coming out as far as how wickedly dangerous microplastics are is just, it's ramping up exponentially. There's an enormous amount I've actually seen. Well, they'll actually introduce unfilterable. They're actually sub-micron size. Unfilterable. Essentially unfilterable. There are actually a few options for filtering out 99.99% of microplastics. But since water is the ultimate solvent, there are some that are even smaller than cryptosporidia. And you know what makes up cryptosporidia? And all those things that ceramic and carbon filters get out, the bugs and the germs. Do you know what? And no one talks about this. And it's really, really important. That thing, and I've made videos on all sorts of different water filters, and I have quite a few. Those things that the water filters remove, cryptosporidia, bacteria, well, those things themselves are like 99% water. And the microplastics, many of them are unfilterable. Ow! I hit my camera there with my elbow. Sorry about that. I'll edit that out of this video. Which means that those filtration systems, well, they'll get the germs and the bugs out that cause Montezuma's revenge. The microplastics that are in them are still there. Yeah, well, you get most of the microplastics, you're not going to get them all. I've seen videos, not, doom and gloom, like, oh my God, the sky is falling, of, they're called, I forget the name of the little fish. Unfortunately, they experiment on them. They just stick super microscopic amounts of microplastics, extremely small microplastics, and tanks full of these breeding, what are they called, chitlids or something like that. It's a type of little bitty fish. Well, they actually reproduce, the little mama and papa fishes will have fish. And the birth defects are astronomically high from non-filterable microplastics. This is said that the average person ingests 5 grams of microplastics every week, equivalent to a credit card. So every human being on Earth, with some rare exceptions depending on where they live, your typical dude that lives in the suburbs, something like that, in a first world country, we're consuming a credit card's worth, credit card made out of plastic, credit card's worth of microplastics. That's every week, not every month or every year, every week. It's the amount of information that I've actually seen as far as birth defects and anomalies. Apparently, you notice how there's been a huge astronomical rise of people with gut issues, like irritable bowel syndrome. There's just, and I've noticed, I'm 49 years old, it's like, back when I was like 20 or something, you didn't hear about people with all these weird different gut diseases. People end up with a colostomy bag on their stomach, or they have IBS, blah, 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 blah. You notice, and this is only anecdotal. I don't know if there's a true connection here. All these teen girls that have been drinking Evian water and whatever from plastic containers. I never drank water from plastic containers. Never. There might have been one instance where I was like insanely thirsty and, there's some plastic chilled water and I drank it because I was just wickedly thirsty, but I never ever bought it and never did it. You notice how these young teenage girls, they're like perfect health or drop dead gorgeous, like the age of 25. There's been an enormous upsurge of them. They even have their own little groups. These perfectly healthy, beautiful young women, they'll have colostomy bags and all these different intestinal and stomach disorders. Microplastics, not my opinion, this is confirmed, are directly related to all these gut and intestinal issues. They're related to birth defects. Not that I really want to talk about this gross topic, but the male end of the reproduction system, yeah, we know what we're talking about. Not female eggs, but yeah, I just don't want to use that word because the algorithms are always listening. This has been confirmed. I was like, what was causing it? They've been checking this out statistically for the past 30-some years, and it's been like something like male reproductivity percentage will drop to near zero if it continues on this decline that they've been watching now for 30 years, and it's related to one thing, microplastics. One thing predominantly, microplastics. There's all these mental issues that are related to microplastics. Human beings, when water, even if you've been drinking tap water, well, New York City's got the cleanest, freshest tap water in the United States. And I know that that's quantitatively pure, but what they actually don't test for on those is microplastics. And I have, there's some mega $1,000,000 water filtration, and you could actually have evaporation, condensation, distillers for distilling water, and here we have distilled water right here. It might be 9 times distilled. A lot of those superfine microplastics that are micron and submicron size, which actually make their way through the filter. They're literally way smaller than Cryptosporidia, way smaller than bacteria, Giardia, those things that those water filters filter out, including distilled, which is a completely different premise of evaporation, distillation. Well, those micron, submicron microplastics actually make their way through. There's some interesting distillation filters that, in theory only, deliver pure water. It means they take out 99.9% of macroplastic. They still don't get the really, because water is the ultimate solvent. I don't know if you remember that video from like a year or so ago. I said, you know, I have these distilled water jugs, and I thought I had a plumbing leak. And I knew water was the ultimate solvent. I thought I had a plumbing leak. There's water all over my kitchen floor. Well, water had sprung a leak. You know, just drilled a hole right through the plastic jug. One a little sturdier than this. This is kind of a cheap distilled plastic water jug. Eat a hole right through it. So people don't think of water as a solvent, but it's the ultimate solvent. That's not my opinion. That's a fact. There's a difference too, and I've made countless videos on quantitatively versus qualitatively pure water, because the stuff you get out of the tap, even though it is quantitatively pure, however, they don't test for submicron microplastics. Don't test. I don't know of a single water treatment facility that tests for submicron microplastics. I don't know of one. And even if they did, they can't filter it out anyway. They can't. Super expensive evaporation distillation, which this is probably one-time distill. This is cheap distilled water. And there's some stuff that's like 9 times distilled water. Like, I don't drink alcohol, but there are alcoholic places. We use 12 times distilled water for our vodka. Wonderful. Yeah, super, super, super pure. Other than like harnessing water from 10,000-year-old glacier ice, you know, it's been frozen long before plastics existed. Of course, plastics haven't been around that long. I mean, haven't been really, in the time scale of things, haven't been around that long at all. One of the serious things that fish die off, and there's an island floating out. It just keeps swirling around. It keeps getting bigger and bigger. And I'm not an environmentalist. I mean, I love the environment. I love trees. I mean, I'm really kind of close to a tree hugger, even though I'm not a tree hugger. There's an island of plastic floating out in the Pacific that just keeps growing every year. It's all that, and it just keeps dissolving, especially in salt water, which is even a better solvent than regular distilled water or tap water is. Tap water is a solvent. Distilled would be the least. Then tap water, then somewhere way more solvent would be salt water. So all these fish die off, not from overfishing, which of course is a serious issue, but they're dying off due to microplastics. So you have all these birth defects and mental issues. You have all these, you didn't see this 20, 30 years ago. These young, beautiful 20-something ladies that are skinny and in shape, and you know they've got, you know, their intestines is, you know, they got a colostomy bag over here, which I know they hate. You know, it's none of my business, but I mean, apparently microplastics are super directly linked to these bowel and gut disorders and diseases. And there's been an absolutely off-the-scale insurgence of that stuff in the past 20-plus years. Male infertility is literally taking a nosedive. Not that it matters to me any. Well, it does. I mean, continuance of the human species. So this is a serious problem. There's reverse osmosis filters that can filter down to 0.001 microns. So a reverse osmosis filter, most people, nearly nobody, unless you're a millionaire, is going to invest in an evaporation, distillation, or double or triple distillation system for filtering out their water. But the micron and submicron microplastics, they remain, and they're accumulative. They're called chinchillids or something. I know what a chinchilla is. They're these little fish that these scientists have been testing now for a long, long time. Someone will correct me the name of this fish. I'm sorry I can't remember it. This is cute little fish. They just stick in some micron and submicron microplastics into the water in which they live and eat, and the birth defects are just horrific. And they're more sensitive to those microplastics in human beings, but we're also too sensitive to it. So people don't understand that there's a difference between qualitatively, this is fascinating, and nobody's talking about this that I know of. There's qualitatively pure water and there's quantitatively pure water. But even the quantitatively pure water, it's like super pure. Yeah, it has no taste at all. Even the near perfect quantitatively pure water doesn't test for micron, submicron microplastics. Even if they could, they couldn't filter it out. And it would be heinously expensive. You don't deliver tap water to people, by the mega tonnage every day through that system. It's just too radically expensive. There's no way. And the qualitatively pure water I've talked about endlessly. This is where it is quantitatively pure, or nearly so. However, it is qualitatively very impure because it's 1,000,000 times recycled toilet water. Yeah, you talk about qualitatively, and this, of course, is talking about structured water. And countless videos about structured water. You get 2 by 2 by 1 inch neodymium iron boron with a hole in the middle. You could take copper tubing. You could take rubber tubing. However, that's a problem too because it's rubber, right? Copper tubing and bring it through there. What you do is you fill it full of water and you freeze it so you can bend it without kinking it. That's actually how they repair tubas and whatnot that have become dented. They actually put, when they're making them, shaping them, you could bend all these weird bends and tubas and saxophones, all this other stuff without putting kinks in the brass. So you're able to bend the tubing without causing it to kink. You can actually bend the copper tubing with ice in it around 4 wraps one way and then 90 degrees 4 wraps the other way to actually change the qualitative nature. I don't know why everybody keeps asking me how to build a structured water device. I mean, literally a blind person could do it. Copper tubing, 2 by 2 by 1 inch neodymium iron boron, which you can get on eBay like for $40. Neodymium prices actually fluctuate, so what those magnets cost actually does this number like gold and silver does. So I'm not a doom and gloomer like, oh no, the world, the sky is falling, but microplastics actually are a serious issue because people don't think that water is a solvent at all. We think of acid, but water is the ultimate solvent. Water has like about 500,000 different magical properties too, and that's not my premise either. You just type in the magic and weird properties of water. It's horrific that, and people need to think about that. These microplastics are accumulative in your gut. The regular water filtrations for getting out things that cause you to have Montezuma's revenge and whatnot, they're made out of bacteria, cryptosporidia, blah, blah, but all those little critters and diseases are themselves mostly water. And the submicron level of microplastics are accumulative. And we're consuming, on average, a credit card's equivalent every week. So every person on Earth, on average, is consuming 4 credit cards per month of plastic in the form of microplastics. Mental disorders, gut diseases, IBS, all these young, beautiful ladies have colostomy bags. It's becoming exponentially really bad. It's times like this I'm actually glad I have a cave with spring water in it. I'm sorry, I'll edit that out. It's actually times like that I am glad I have a cave with spring water gushing out of it. Don't buy bottled... Most of my life, ever since bottled water has been sold and whatnot in plastic bottles, I just shake my head. Even then I knew water is the ultimate solvent. I'm like, but at least buy it in glass. No, glass is an issue. No, you don't buy water in plastic and drink in it. Oh, it's perfect spring water. Yeah, but it's in a plastic bottle. I see people buying that stuff by the case. Here's another fact. When they make those plastic bottles, you probably don't know this. Before they do it anyway, but they're not supposed to. As soon as they're injection molded made, like spit them out, there's all these empty plastic bottles everywhere. You're supposed to wait until that plastic off-gasses. You know what off-gassing is? Depending on the type of plastic, there's a million different types of plastics. When they make those water bottles, plastic water bottles, they off-gas all this nasty toxic stuff that causes minuscule amounts of dissolution of the plastic. It dissolves it. It lets off less gas. It's kind of like, I don't know if you ever blown bubbles in the slightly viscous fluid. Eventually the little micro bubbles all bubble out of the surface and they bubble away. Anyway, there's plastic off gases, and they're supposed to wait for them to cure, these plastic bottles to cure, but these days they don't do it. They make the plastic bottles and boom, right down the assembly line and start filling it full of water. And the off-gassing occurs where the plastic is dissolved at an exponential rate and it goes into the water. Oh, this is the finest bottle of spring water there is. Well, it was before they stuck it in that plastic bottle that's off-gassing. Now it's a toxic waste dump full of microplastics that are causing decline in male fertility, mental disorders, IBS, all sorts of bowel and gut diseases. Yeah, and look, and I know I'm fat and I'm not healthy. Okay, I don't I don't have to be a pilot to know that you shouldn't fly a plane blind upside down, right? Yeah, I don't have to be in perfect health to make statements about health regarding water, because I know someone will leave that comment. Hey, you're talking about health. They said the fat guy sitting there eats too much. I know someone's gonna say that. Whatever. This is an important video. People need to consider that. Don't buy bottled water in plastic. They don't let that stuff off gas anymore. Because why sit there and wait? Time is money, man. As soon as you make it, injection mold it, fill it full of water, get it out the door. And then make more. Hope you liked this video. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day. Goodbye.